Hola, it's Mike from Tugateca again, and today I'm going to talk about the difference between tu and você in European Portuguese so you can come to Portugal and express yourself like a native speaker. Let's start by the pronoun tu, and this pronoun you can use in informal contexts. For instance, among friends and family, and with people you have a strong and close relationship with, and like among youngsters and adult people in informal contexts. For instance, if you meet someone at a party, which is an informal context, you can say tu to them. Let's get to você. Você is used in formal contexts. When you don't have a close relationship with the person you're talking to, or when you're addressing older people, or at services like ordering in a cafe, or at social security, or at the finances department, you use você. So, if you ever go to a cafe in Lisbon, for instance, and you want to order a pastel de nata or a galão, you can ask, tem pastel de nata? Tem pastel de nata? Or, poderia dar-me um galão, por favor? Poderia dar-me um galão, por favor? Have you noticed that I didn't really say the pronoun você in the examples? Well, it's a taboo in Portugal to say this pronoun when addressing someone in a formal context. We actually use the conjugation associated to this pronoun, você, ele, ela, você, but we don't really utter it. We don't really utter the pronoun você when speaking to someone. Instead, you can use the person's name. For instance, you run into this person in a formal context. Obviously, you're not quite close to, but you're close enough to use their first name. So you can say, for instance, and you want to know if the person, let's say, for example, have been shopping. You can say, for instance, a Márcia já foi às compras hoje? A Márcia já foi às compras hoje? Which would translate into have you been shopping today, Marcia? When addressing people, your older people you're not really close to, or that you don't have like this trust relationship, you can use the word senhor if it's a man, or the word dona if it's a woman before their name. For instance, picking the same example as before with Marcia, you can say, a dona Márcia já foi às compras hoje? A dona Márcia já foi às compras hoje? Or if you're addressing a man, you can say, o senhor Miguel já foi às compras hoje? Still in the same context, but when you don't know the person's name, you can only use the expression o senhor or a senhora. Senhor addressing a man, and senhora when talking to a woman, to a lady. So you say, o senhor já foi às compras hoje? Or a senhora já foi às compras hoje? You can also use the title depending, or the title associated to the person's status. For instance, when talking to a teacher, you want to know if she corrected your homework, you ask, a professora já corrigiu o trabalho de casa? A professora já corrigiu o trabalho de casa? To play it safe, you can always, of course, just omit the pronoun and say, for instance, já foi às compras hoje? Or, professora, já corrigiu os trabalhos de casa? Well, this might sound contradictory, but you can actually utter the pronoun você when talking to older people, for instance, in older people you're quite close to, um, in an informal context. And I think that talking to an older neighbor is the perfect example of this because a neighbor is someone you're quite close with, and it's like you usually talk to them in an informal context like your apartment hall, or I don't know, you're like in the street. And so when having small talk with your older neighbor in your apartment's hall, for instance, you can ask: então, dona Márcia, você já foi às compras hoje? Então, dona Márcia, você já foi às compras hoje? Well, this is it for today. I hope it's clear for you now the difference between tu and você in European Portuguese. And if you have any questions, just let us know and stay tuned for more content. Adeus!